No one questions the fact Palmer and Patsy Lockhart love their son Jason, but the Lockharts have been charged with first-degree manslaughter in connection with the boy's death. If convicted of manslaughter, the Lockharts could spend between 4 years and life behind bars. The couple will remain free on $20,000 bond until their trial December 14th. Both the Lockharts and the state agree on how the boy died. 9-year-old Jason Lockhart developed a stomachache June 10th. Over the next few days, he suffered from vomiting and severe diarrhea. Jason died from a ruptured appendix June 16th. The boy had not seen a doctor. Palmer and Patsy Lockhart are members of the Church of the Firstborn. They say their beliefs forbid medical treatment. The Lockharts say they prayed for their son to get well. The Garfield County prosecutor argues the Lockharts are guilty of manslaughter because they failed to provide their son with the necessary medical care to keep him alive. The Lockharts' lawyer contends the parents are protected by both state and federal laws governing freedom of religion. Both attorneys agree this case raises serious social, moral, and legal issues, and they concur it could wind up before the U.S. Supreme Court. This case has generated a lot of interest here in Enid because it involves both basic religious rights and parental responsibilities. And the matter is being closely monitored over in Woodward County, where the local DA must decide whether to file criminal charges against some other members of the Church of the Firstborn, some members whose 14-year-old daughter recently died from treatable kidney disease. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Enid.
We're in the planning stage and everything has been going real well about a ceremony on the north oval of the state capitol grounds to have a ceremony for basically for our 985 comrades that were killed from Oklahoma in Vietnam.
The Oklahoma Corrections Department calls its newest minimum security prison the James Crabtree Correctional Center. A few months ago, the facility was known as the Helena State School for Boys. The institution's new residents are a little older than its previous tenants, but they're sent to Helena for the same reason, to protect society from people convicted of crimes. The state legislature transferred the facility from the Welfare Department to the Corrections Department last July. Shipping 100 prisoners to Helena this summer helped relieve some of the prison overcrowding.
The overcrowding problem has reached such proportions that any additional space that we can find in the system is sorely needed and very much appreciated. And we have plans to increase the population here from 100 to probably over 300 inmates in the coming year, and that will help that much more.
Helena's new residents have been pressed into service to remodel the institution. They will complete the first phase of the project next year. The Corrections Department has some big plans for this facility. Money has already been approved for additional space to handle 3 times the present inmate population. Ultimately, the Corrections Department would like to beef up security here and make this a medium security prison, since the state's medium security institutions are the state's most overcrowded prisons. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Helena.
there is a lot of people in this Oklahoma Panhandle that if this land is sold and they're not able to buy it, it will flat put them out of business. They just won't be able to continue. You take in Cimarron County where there's 270,000 acres of state land. There's several people that has 10 to 20,000 acre leases, and it'll just stop them. They can't go on.
Go sue one another in court, whatever you want to do. I'm only concerned about...
Then when noise broke out again, actors are taken by the Oklahoma City Council.
Municipal Councilor's office to see if there are acts and it has not abated then, evidently.
Your Honor, there was an art. Then when noise broke out again, I called. When noise broke out again, I called and said, "We are being disturbed again," and I received the most obscene answers that I've ever heard in my life. And I have, being a legal secretary, I've heard some pretty rough language, but I've never heard anything like that. And I would like to ask the councilmen if they would like their wives and mothers and daughters to hear that kind of language every weekend in the year. Thank you.
Ms. Feeney is recognized.
I would like to go ahead and move that this be put on the agenda for next week. $7.73.
Who would have believed it 5 years ago, or even last year for that matter? A carton of cigarettes for over $7? Well, now brace yourself for some bad news. The price is going up even higher. On January 1st, the new federal cigarette tax will double the current 8 cents per pack to 16 cents. That on top of the already high price and a probable price hike shortly after the first of the year. Surprisingly, though, many smokers are accepting the increases without a complaint.
There's a few customers comment that when it gets over $1, they're going to quit smoking, but in the past, they've always, maybe for the first 2 or 3 days, said, "You mean they've gone up again?" And that's it.
These mountains of cigarettes are on their way to the retailers from this wholesale warehouse. Every carton will eventually sell at the higher prices. And the wholesalers are hoping these cigarettes sell as fast as they do now. The wholesalers haven't increased their price to make big profits, nor have the retailers. It boils down to the big tobacco manufacturers and government.
Well, the manufacturer increases their price. We tack on the manufacturer's increase to our selling price. When the tax increase comes on, which it will January 1 of 8 cents a pack, well, that will be added on.
And take a wild guess who's going to pay for all of these increases. You and me. Dan Slocum, Action 4.
State education officials say Oklahoma colleges and universities need a record $429 million in state funds to operate during the next school year. The funding request is nearly $85 million more than current state support. Education officials say the explosive cost of education is due to high-cost courses, classes requiring expensive equipment. The trend in education is a switch from low-cost humanities, arts, and social studies classes to high-cost courses in areas like computer science. The data center at Central State University is one of the most expensive facilities on campus. The high technology courses cost universities more, but they are the classes that students want to take.
More and more of the degrees require some experience in computer science, as well as housewives coming back and learning how to use computers, people who coming in who have businesses of their own. They want some experience and knowledge of how to use these computers.
The budget needed to operate the computer terminals and other high-cost college courses still needs approval from state lawmakers. It will be the legislatures who dispute or compute a bigger budget for education. Debbie Mash, Action 4 at Central State University.
is the reason why we are going to say marchand from time to time, rather 3 formations, the upper Red Fork, middle Red Fork. That portion of the section.
15 through 19 is to summarize the
spacing and request 560 acres.
We paid $200 an acre for our leases and have bid as much as $600 per acre for leases on the east half of the southeast, but it's our understanding that the restricted Indians in this case want $4,000 to $5,000 an acre, and we think that's very unreasonable.
Well, the application seeks to despace 80 acres, which happens to be the only Indian land in this section, and would effectively, in our opinion, deprive the Indians of the right to obtain the value of their minerals underneath that land.
A nuclear attack, the ultimate disaster, a holocaust that would render Oklahoma defenseless, leaving thousands dead. But can you prepare for such a disaster? The Oklahoma Civil Defense seems to think so. Today and tomorrow, the Oklahoma Civil Defense is conducting an emergency management seminar. They discuss procedures in the event of disasters. Although the state civil defense personnel concentrates mostly on local tragedy like flood and tornado, they feel the state's emergencies are good training for a major disaster.
You take a tornado, you have devastation, you have injured, you have disorientation, you have people that are out of their homes, so that's what we respond to. If you can respond to those types of disasters, well, you can respond to other types.
The Oklahoma Civil Defense spends over $1.5 million each year helping Oklahomans. When a tornado struck much of Altus, the Civil Defense was there. And although this unfortunate act of God is not a nuclear holocaust, the state Civil Defense says they are ready. Kurt Autry, Action 4.
Can you sit back down? Slow. Okay, come on up again.
4-year-old Andrea Woods has a new place to practice her sit-ups. Andrea is one of the thousands of kids who will benefit from the Crippled Children's new Care and Treatment Center. The facility provides much more than just physical therapy. Youngsters can also be screened for potential hearing, speech, vision, or spine problems. It's a sad fact. The handicapped kids will have to live in a world not designed to accommodate them. Perhaps some of the children can learn about coping from this man.
Helping persons with disabilities to come.
Dr. Harold Wilke is an outspoken advocate of improving public facilities to meet the needs of the handicapped. He took us to an office building across the street from the Crippled Children's Center to point out potential handicap barriers. A simple curb could look like a mountain to someone confined to a wheelchair, and heavy doors become formidable obstacles to people with strength handicaps.
More and more people in our society are, in one way or another, handicapped. And the picture is not going to change. We can really be grateful for the fact that persons with disabilities suffered, say, in an auto crash, are going to live. But they're going to live in a hampered way unless society opens itself up to them. The real handicap is society.
While society attempts to remove physical barriers, the Crippled Children's Center will continue to teach youngsters how to best cope with their disabilities. Scott Wallace, Action 4, Northwest Oklahoma City.
A trip to the dentist's office isn't something most of us look forward to. But for Sharon Lugrand, these trips mark a whole new way of life. She's learning to be a dental technician. Sharon is a mother of 2, and she's received aid to families with dependent children. On January 1st of this year, all women applying for AFDC were required to enter one of the Department of Human Services work incentive programs. So far, more than 2,600 women have found jobs.
I'm enjoying it and I'm learning a lot about dentistry. This program has helped me to refresh my memory in it so that I can go out and get a job in private practice.
The program has been quite successful. We've had approximately 1,800 people participate in it since January 1st of this year. Our AFDC caseload has dropped approximately 13% since January, giving us a savings of approximately $800,000 per month in payments to AFDC.
So that makes the work incentive program different from a lot of government programs. It helps people without costing taxpayers an arm and a leg. Bill Ross, Action 4 at the College of Dentistry.
You haven't heard anything like that?
I haven't in particular. Now, that's Graduate School of Psychology in Pasadena, California. They get a chance to be somebody in their own distorted value system. They see the evening news, national news. They read the papers and all the publicity that this individual, as yet unknown in Chicago, is getting, and then they can tell themselves, hey, I can do that. It's easy.
Dave McCurdy is running hard to make it back to Washington. For McCurdy, the road to Congress goes through towns like Stratford, Oklahoma. As he goes to the domino parlors and stores on Main Street, McCurdy discusses a wide variety of subjects.
How you doing? Great.
The area's Peach Festival, Nigh versus Daxon, and State Question 558 concerning water supply. He asked local businessmen how things are going, and he talks about his accomplishments in the first term. McCurdy's the first freshman to ever chair a panel of the Armed Services Committee. The McCurdy Amendment requires reports as soon as military cost overruns become known. McCurdy says budget cuts are necessary, but he's not sure about Reaganomics.
You know, you have to make sure the numbers add up. It has to be reasonable and well thought out, as opposed to a quick fix, magic solutions, and easy answers. I don't rubber stamp anyone. I don't rubber stamp the Democratic Party. I don't rubber stamp the president. And I represent these people. And that's the important thing.
The reason McCurdy stresses his independence from the White House is obvious.
There's one candidate in your area who will help me keep the promises I made in 1980. That man is Howard Rutledge.
Howard Rutledge served as a Navy jet pilot for 30 years. For more than 7 years, he was a prisoner of war in Vietnam. At Ken Hall's barbershop in Norman, he tells voters it's time to turn the country around, that it's time to send a congressman to Washington who will support Ronald Reagan to the fullest. Rutledge supports the president's stand on defense, school prayer, and abortion. And he sees himself as the only fiscal conservative in the race.
I think the single major problem that's wrong with our economy right now is that federal government up there is too big, spending more money than it takes in. And Mr. McCurdy is a spender. He's got a record of spending bills. He refuses to make the necessary federal spending cuts.
Rutledge and McCurdy are like two boxers getting ready for a rematch. Both are confident, both are determined, and both are looking for a knockout on Tuesday. Bill Ross, Action 4.
Spirits are high tonight at the rescue mission in downtown Oklahoma City, but things look bleak for the 40 or so women who take refuge behind the mission's doors. The center may have to turn the women to the streets if their heating and gas system can't be repaired. It's an act of mercy, according to officials at the facility.
It would just be too cold once really winter sets in. That's why we feel we need to do something now rather than to wait till wintertime when the snow's on the ground and say, well, you're going to have to go someplace else, and which would even be harder to try to relocate them then than now.
Most women at the shelter have brought their kids along to be taken care of. They too will have to face the prospect of losing a roof if things don't work out. There aren't many other places for women without a home to live in Oklahoma City, and the ones that do exist are usually full.
Well, I'm working, and starting tonight, I just started on a second job, and just hope I can get my money up by Friday.
What if you don't?
I don't know.
For now, transients at the rescue mission are hoping for the best, but they have only until Friday to receive the necessary funds. Kevin Ogle, Action 4. The recent push to buckle up infants in the automobile has prompted a big response to the sale of children's safety seats today. The seats were being sold for half price, and people were buying the product up as fast as the labor could hand it out. The #1 killer of kids under 5 is an automobile accident. Most of the deaths and injuries occur when the kids are not properly buckled up. According to one expert, a baby should be made accustomed to the special seats as soon as it leaves the hospital.
This is the goal of all pediatricians and all the societies that have been that are sponsoring this type of a sale. First day out into the car seat and home. I mean, in other words, you can instill this in the parents as well as in the baby, and everybody is more comfortable in this type of a situation.
Tests have shown that when a woman is holding a child in a moving automobile and that car is forced to make a sudden stop, the baby becomes too much weight and is thrown into the dash or the windshield. Across America last year, this occurred often and resulted in the death of 1,000 children under 5. Oklahoma ranks 6th in the country in automobile-related infant deaths. That's a statistic that Oklahoma AAA officials are not proud of. But by promoting safety seats, the organization believes the public will become more aware of the problem and less children will die on Oklahoma roads this year. Kevin Ogle, Action 4.
It was only 2 weeks ago that the First Christian Church in Purcell voted to remove their pastor, Dr. Richard Yapel, after he made a public stand on the parimutuel betting issue. Today, Yapel was being considered for a post as associate pastor for the First Christian Church in Oklahoma City. The church admits Yapel wasn't really considered for the job until he was fired in Purcell. The church elders felt he had a lot of qualities that would help the church. The congregation agreed by a vote of 225 to 10.
There was a lot of discussion. I think that's healthy. I think the church was at work in a congregational form of government. The pattern of this congregation is to give any new staff member a real opportunity to do his job. And I think they'll do that way with Dick Yapel.
The First Christian Church of Oklahoma City is one of the largest churches in the Disciples of Christ denomination. Dr. Yapel told Action 4 on the telephone interview that he's excited about working for the church and that he will likely be involved in counseling. No date has been set for Dr. Yapel to begin. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
Muskogee District Attorney Mike Turpin kicked off his bid for Attorney General in Muskogee last year. The day before the big election, he's back home doing what he's been doing for the past 9 months, campaigning.
I appreciate everything. I need your vote one more time, all right? Turpin time one more time.
The campaign trail has been a little easier for Turpin these last couple of months. Gone are the days of 6 or 7 whistle stops. He needed the name recognition then. Most voters know his name now. Turpin plans to spend the last few hours before D-Day with the people that know him best.
I'm in Muskogee because Muskogee is the town that made me what I am. And I'm here today to spend the last day before the election with the people that are very special to me and that helped get me going in this thing to begin with. I'm going to dance with the one who brung me, so to speak.
Republican Attorney General candidate Earl Donaldson hasn't been dancing with anyone lately. Donaldson had a falling out with the state Republican Party shortly after entering the race. When the Republicans stopped payment on Donaldson's $2,000 campaign fund check, the candidate stopped campaigning. For private attorney Earl Donaldson, the day before the big election was just like any other workday.
Due to finances, since I have not been able to run a very active campaign, I have not been out knocking doors and campaigning. I've been talking to a number of friends who were very supportive of my candidacy, who have contacted me, and I've contacted them, who've been wishing me the best in the race, telling me they are going to support me, and hope that I kind of pull one out of the bag, so to speak.
No one knows for sure who will win the race tomorrow. The only thing we know for sure, Oklahoma will get a new Attorney General. Scott Wallace, Action 4.
Probably one of the wisest investments this state has ever made is trying to save freight rail service for our agriculture, for our business, for our community. And I am proud that the support of the legislature and of the business community and of the labor organizations has made this one day possible.
By the time the governor arrived at his watch party at the Hilton Inn West, there was no question he had won. The polls had shown him ahead all along, and still he campaigned hard to the very end. He spent $1 million on his campaign, and he now makes Oklahoma history as the first governor elected to 2 terms in office. As he thanked the cheering crowd, he said he wanted to be remembered for more than making political history.
I ask you to join with me again tonight as we continue to work for the future of Oklahoma. That the record that we hope that history will record is not that a person was elected twice, but that the state prospered and the people prospered and the state grew under an administration that just was elected twice. The future of Oklahoma is the history about which I am concerned, and I ask you to work with me for that.
There is no doubt George Nigh will be remembered. He's been in politics 30 years, and his supporters were thrilled with the prospects of another 4 years in office.
Oh, I think he's going to do a super job. I think there's so much that he can do.
He knows everybody in this room. He'll talk to you, he knows your name. Just a tremendous man. I'm just delighted.
So I think the governor was the right man at the right time, and we all love him.
He's a good man.
So for the next 4 years, Governor Nigh gets to wear this hat and prove he really is a good guy. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at the Hilton West.